Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are, of course, your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. We're back we're building up for another week back in the Champions League. Now's the time to smile, panel. If you're the first time, you can find us. We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. I know what you're thinking. When you see a panel the caliber of this one, you're thinking, it's going to be a serious conversation. It is going to be a serious conversation. Back just about at the conductor station. We're going to put some coal in that engine. Macca is back in the house. Macca, how are you? Lovely to see you. You well?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. Really good. Lovely to be back on with all the viewers and listeners, and with you three amazing, slightly annoying, amazing people. And yeah, we're going to get into it. Obviously, that the defeat yesterday, but also what we've got coming up, and the runner games as well. So I'm sure we'll get into it over the next hour, mate.
Absolutely, Macca. Love to see you back alongside us. Also back alongside us was there to suffer yet another home defeat to Chelsea. He's probably lost count of how many he suffered. George Achille is back on the show. George, we only bring you back for quiet ones. How are you, mate? Love to see you back alongside us.
Oh, mate, when you sent me that message, what was it, yesterday or the day before the game, you're like, no. Hopefully it's another good one, a good one this time, not another bad one. It was gone from that moment, mate. It was another Chelsea in November game has left us all feeling a little bit turgid. But no, I'm good to be back on chatting to you guys, and hopefully we can sort of unpack this situation that we find ourselves in. Bizarre one as well, because we're still high up the table, but something just doesn't feel right at the moment. So I'm interested to see what you guys in the chat have to say today. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Bless you, mate. Always a pleasure. We've labelled the show Inside Frank's Tottenham, so he will be frank. He will tell it as it is. Jason McGovern is back. Jace, love to see you back on the show. How's things outside of Tottenham?
It's a lot better outside of Tottenham than it is inside of Tottenham, that's for sure.
Yeah,
I'm surprised Macca's got out of that plunge pool. I feel like being in the 6-degree water for the rest of the month, mate. That's for sure. Till the whole thing freezes over.
I tell you, bring us out that ice bath for the January transfer at the moment. I feel like we've been in the ice bath the last couple of weeks. I tell you. Listen, a lot to discuss on this last one on Spurs. We'll be discussing where we are in the Thomas Frank project, where there's already, it feels like, murmurings in the fan base of discontent. Obviously, again, that's always accelerated when you lose to Chelsea. I think we've seen that over so many managers, that whenever you lose to Chelsea, that does seem to be a massive, massive cause for concern, whoever really's been in charge of the club, right? Because Chelsea at home, it's a fixture that we know it's always been a difficult one for managers to face. It always seems to have consequences of different nature. But I think the one thing fans do expect to see is a performance. And I think when you don't have a performance, that is where questions, unfortunately, do come from. And to be fair, again, it's a game which had a lot of different things happen in it. In terms of where we are currently in this Thomas Frank project as of right now, we're currently 1 point ahead of our total in the Premier League at this stage last season. We do sit with just one win in our last 5 since the last international break. No goals scored in our last 4 halves of football, and just the 1 goal from open play in the last 5. Tottenham do sit, however, in the top 6. They end the weekend in 5th spot in the Premier League. But if we're going to be honest about it, the league table at the moment, to some degree, I think is a bit of an irrelevance right now. I think, I said this in our post-match show against Chelsea, that I think a lot of it comes down to the eye test. It's what you're seeing, what you're feeling, what you're hearing out there. Look, Jules, let's open with you. 4 of the 5 Premier League wins Frank has had so far have come against sides in the bottom 6 in the table, and the others come against Manchester City. It feels that Chelsea game that's probably the easiest 3 points Chelsea will probably pick up this season. Now, whether it's because they're told to be cautious or they're scared of getting grief from the crowd, the players seem at the moment absolutely petrified to play football. And even Sunderland were braver away at Chelsea than we were. So, George, where are we in this Thomas Frank project right now for you?
It's like I was saying at the beginning, it's really confusing, because I think away from home, we've been great. And I think that's part and parcel to the fact that the way he was set up at Brentford, especially when they're playing, we all know the counter-attacking football is the thing that he was absolutely brilliant at. He had a brilliant front three in Wissa and Wemo, Sade before that, when you had the likes of Tony, and he's had Watkins in the past and this, that, and the other. He's clearly good at performing well against top teams, because a lot of the time the pressure's on them, and he does a great job of hitting them on the counter. So that's usually what happens away from home, right? Like usually, even an Everton, for example, who we would consider quote unquote a lesser team, naturally at home, especially in a new ground, they're going to have a lot more of the ball, and we're going to have chances to counter attack. I know we scored from set pieces in that instance, but in general, that's how the games are going, and it's worked. The problem that's been arising for me is just all these home games where really and truly we're going to get more of the possession. A lot of the teams, like your Villas, when they came here, Wolves, they are going to sit back and be quite compact. And it's at that moment I just can't quite work out what the plan is, apart from spam it to Kudus and let's hope he does something, which Chelsea cotton on to absolutely straight away, by the way. If those that watched, they would have tripled up on Kudus on that side so many times. And to be fair, he's looked a little bit off it since that Newcastle appearance midweek. So I don't know if he's maybe carrying it. I don't know if he's a bit leggy, because we've had to play him pretty much every game. So I think it's just, at the moment, I'm just a bit worried about how what our attacking plan is to unlock teams. And I think that's probably the biggest problem we've had so far. And I think we've overperformed in the league in terms of position and points quite a big way, because I know a lot of people don't like XG and this, that, and the other. I think for me, XG in a single match is kind of pointless to look at, because things happen in football. People score screamers all the time, this, that, and the other. But when you look at it across a season, it's really telling and gives quite a wider view of how good is your team at getting in positions to score good goals. So same works in reverse for expected goals against. Across a season, it's good to see how good were you at defensively setting up and stopping other teams from scoring. You might have conceded because they might have just scored a great goal. And across both metrics, we're currently sitting about 15th, 16th in the league right now, which is a massive drop down from what it was a few weeks ago. So, yeah, I'm just a bit worried about our sort of creativity in the park and what we can do to sort of improve it.
Yep, we were discussing that during the show. Macca, to bring you in, Thomas Frankie currently has 1 win, 1 draw and 2 losses this season at home in terms of the Premier League, which, look, isn't good enough, but Tottenham have been poor at home for a while. 3 wins in our last 19. That goes beyond Thomas's reign so far at the club. Look, building, of course, is a slow process, but Tottenham, they've had only 8 shots on target this season at home if you take out the Burnley game in the Premier League. No shots on target in the second half of a whole London derby against Chelsea. It was a truly abysmal performance. I don't think there's any way of looking at that. You know, there was a feeling out there that midfield setup was wrong, as many might argue it's been for a lot of the season when it comes to the home games. And again, where I do have sympathy for Frank, and I've said this on numerous occasions of shows, that the forward line is just simply not up to the level. But you could argue also, we maybe are not being actually set up to score goals, which, look, to be fair, I've said this, you know, when it came to having somebody new come in, you of course expect teething problems, right? You know, I think you don't look too much into the first 6 months because the manager's trying to get to know his players, really get to know the staff that are around him, trying to find and figure out really an approach to games. But I have to be honest and say, that was beyond bad, that Chelsea display. And I said it earlier in the show that Chelsea performances and results seem to dictate and have consequences for a lot of managers and how they're perceived. How's the mood, Macca, for you at the moment in terms of Tottenham, watching it and seeing how Frank's getting on at the moment?
It's tough. It's a tough watch, and I don't think there's anyone, it doesn't even have to come down to Frank in, Frank out. You know, we don't have to be that flippant. It just needs to be, you know, the eye test. I think you said it earlier. The eye test was so much around, you know, the previous managers that we've been in this football club, and the eye test is here to see. It's absolute turgid. I mean, not being funny, it's absolutely turgid, right? So you go to watch football matches, and I can say the tagline, "Aren't you entertained?" And everyone just thinks of Ange, but it is about entertainment, and we're not getting entertained. We're getting absolutely battered, bullied and battered at home. It's actually embarrassing. You know, we Jace, you put in a group yesterday, didn't you? To be fair, or this morning, like Wolves have sacked their manager. The only away point that he's got is, guess who? Against Tottenham. I mean, you could not make this stuff up. You know, our home form is absolutely ridiculous. And you know, I for one, I'm looking at the Copenhagen game. I'm thinking, oof, You know, and I think a lot of people are doing that. And that's the problem. The problem is, Rick, is that we're now not just thinking about, the football. We're now thinking about, we're already dreading going. And this is a nightmare. And then you add on the fact that we lost in the cup in the week. Now, you know, people will say, it's Newcastle. We didn't play particularly well either. During that game, probably better than we did against Chelsea for sure. So it was the worst performance for a long time, even though we finished 17th last year. But the reality is that, you know, we're out of the cup this week. We lost the football match against our rivals, which it's not even about the loss. Let's have it right. We always lose against Chelsea. That's nothing new, but it's the performance. And you know, I'm not an XG lover, to be fair, as George said, but what was it, 0.01 or whatever, 0.05. I mean, come on, man. I do agree with you in terms of the attack. We are missing Dom, and you know, and even when Dom comes out, say Dom's fit next game, he's still 6 to 7 weeks away from being fully fit, isn't he? In terms of match fitness, that takes you straight through the Christmas fixtures. You know, you can go through the whole squad. Just the way we're set up, the players that we've actually got. I mean, if you're really being honest on the show, the fact of the matter is, the players in the forward positions are not good enough. They're not good enough. Tell's not good enough. Xavi, I'm not being funny. I ain't seen nothing from that. I don't want to get on his back, but I ain't seen nothing from him. I saw even in the group the other day, people were saying to me, saying on the group, Mawani, he's had a good game. He didn't have a good game. I ain't seen nothing from him. I've seen nothing from these players that are suggesting that they're going to score, they're going to create chances. I mean, even under, you know, I think Conte gets a bit of a bad rap, and sometimes for me in terms of defensive football. But on average, I remember doing the stats in the Blue Book, Rick. On average, Conte was having 7 shots on target under his reign.
That's
7 on target.
You're right, definitely.
For sure, mate. He absolutely was. And, you know, even against, you know, that time when he actually had his rave up and we drew 3-3 with Southampton and he popped his whatever he popped. He went mad, didn't he? And then he left the football club. If we'd have won that game, we'd have gone third in the league at that point. And this is where the league isn't. It doesn't make sense at the moment. Like we're still in a decent position, yet it feels like we've just carried on from last season. Yet we've got a different manager.
We're failing the eye test, aren't we, Macca? We're failing the eye test.
It's really hard to. I don't want to be the moaner. You know what? I'm not like that. But you can't defend. You cannot defend. Well, I said on the group, Thomas Frank, see if you can defend that, mate, because you defend everything else.
Look, let's bring Jason in. Jason, love to be back on the show. It's, you know, it isn't just about attacking and being exciting. I think also it's about controlling how the games are played. And Spurs have won loads of games so far by defending resolutely, conceding possession, but attacking with intent when we won it back. But the pragmatism that we're showing at the moment doesn't appear to have any sense of control, which leads you to nowhere. And I think, you know, I said this before, that we're currently starting Xavi, or appear to be starting Xavi at times in the 10. That also maybe sets the tone. You know, he might be struggling, but we have no other options right now. And it comes back to the point that I agree with Macca. I think we've probably got the worst forwards at the club, in my opinion, in probably the last couple of decades. That's how I think how bad our forwards are. But the Chelsea game, you know, we couldn't deal with their press. They were limiting us to really any sense of creativity. You know, we can keep sitting there every week and finding another player to scapegoat to pick on. But the reality is, Jason, I don't know if you agree, that the system at the moment doesn't appear platform well enough at all to benefit the players. I mean, quick takeaways for you, Chelsea game, what you make of it before we go more into Frank in detail and where we are at the moment.
Well, when that team sheet came out yesterday, I wasn't necessarily that annoyed that it was Polina and Bentancur, particularly. But what I couldn't see was what on earth the plan was when we had 4 central midfield players. So, you know, Bergvall is a central midfield player. Sarr is a central midfield player. So was it going to be 4-4-2? Was it going to be 4-3-3? Was it going to be 4-2-3-1? I have no idea, because under none of those kind of systems does 4 central midfield players work. So there was no obvious left winger, whether it was Bergvall's job to go out there, in which case, well, you know, that tells you a lot when we're picking a central midfield player as our left winger over Xabi Simons, over Odobert, over Matisse Tell. We got Kudus right. Was Mawani was Muani supposed to be the left winger? In which case, who was the number 9? I just cannot work out what on earth the plan was. All it stunk to me was that we're petrified of Enzo and Caicedo dominating, so we want 4 against 2 in the middle there. But what it turned out with was Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez totally dominating anyway. So that didn't work. And then when you're struggling to come back in a game, and you think the only thing this Thomas Frank side has, other than Kudus, is long throws and set pieces, we then take off our long thrower and we take off our set piece taker. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying those players deserve to stay on. But when I'm thinking, well, plan A's obviously not work, plan B's not work, plan C's not work, so fuck knows what plan D is, because, you know, there's nothing left. So from minute 1, it was a typical Chelsea. From the moment Bergvall had his head injury in minute 1, it was the normal Chelsea car crash. And Lee's right, there's not an annoyance. We've lost that game 1-0. There's no annoyance because we've been losing to them for 30 years in the Premier League. And if we go to Arsenal in 2 weeks' time and lose, it will hurt that it's a derby, but we lose to them pretty much every year at the Emirates for 30 years. But, you know, we lost 4-1 to Chelsea and got applauded because at least we had a go. And when Postecoglou came out that night and said, it's who we are, mate, and people just mock him for that, no, it is what Tottenham are, trying to play front foot football at home. But yesterday was pitiful, and to have had, 8 shots on target in 4 home games. I think it's actually 9 on target if you include the Villarreal game, where we needed an own goal and we had 1 shot on target that night. I mean, it's just nowhere near good enough. And I'm, you know, whilst I accept he needs time, whilst I accept he's not working with a great bunch of forwards, what can't be denied at the moment is that he has taken fewer points than any manager of the 15 from their first 5 home games under ENIC. Fewer points than any of them. So we're not saying this is great, bring back Ange. We're saying he's taken fewer points than Ryan Mason as a caretaker, fewer points than David Pleat as a caretaker. And some of those managers, despite the poor forwards we've got, had to work with Postiga, Zamora and Raziak up front. So don't tell me this is the worst bunch of forwards we've had to work with. It isn't in the ENIC era. And 15th out of 15th managers, sorry, if you say give him time, we're just saying that's the first 5 games of all those 15 managers. Some of those, like Pleat, have come into a side that looked a relegation side and was in the bottom 3. Redknapp took over a side with 2 points from 8 games. So, you know, we have been crap for some of those managers and still been able to get more points than this.
Jace, thank you so much. Tell you what, Jason's the one.
Raziak. It done me. He tickled me, mate, with Raziak.
I think he stole Macca's blue book. I thought he stole Macca's blue book, I tell you. Look, at this point, I mean, I think we've got over nearly 4,500 that are watching us here, guys. Thanks so much as always for your support. If you can keep liking, subscribing to the show, that would be greatly appreciated. George, I just want to come to you. We're going to hear from Frank in a second. Frank, in his unveiling, was described as one of the most progressive and innovative head coaches within the game. Are we just not seeing that, George, at the moment transpire, or is it down to the nature of forwards that he's working with at the moment, George? How much do you apply where we are right now in regards to the current group that he's working with?
Look, he has adapted, I feel, or should I say adapted? He's made tweaks pretty much every single week. You know, going back to the 3-2-5, going forward the last couple of games, when he did the 5 at the back at PSG. Obviously, we haven't seen that just yet, but I think we'll probably end up seeing that again when we play them in a couple of weeks' time. So there's no denying he's trying to tweak things and with the players he's got. I think the problem that I have with it at the moment is we're behaving like a team that is reacting to the opposition more than proactively trying to set our style and plan of play. And you can change and tweak things every week. You can adapt every week while still having your set style and attacking play and certain patterns, or whether that's taking advantage of certain players. I don't know. There's a countless number of ways they could do it. But yeah, to me, it just feels like we're going into these games, especially at home, when it shouldn't be the case at home, more so than away. At home, we should be the ones dictating play completely. That's not happening. We're going, like Jason was saying there, Chelsea have got Caicedo, Enzo, whoever it might be. We're just going to try and nullify them, and that's it. Not how about let's make ourselves difficult to beat for those players. And you saw that when, especially towards the end of the game, I was genuinely dumbfounded at how many of our players look like statues, not like chasing down the players, not trying to get the ball and then and create things moving forward. And I just feel a little bit. It does genuinely, at the home game specifically, feel like we're playing like a mid-table team coming up against the best,
which
is not what we should be doing.
Does it feel like then the setup is we're playing like Brentford at home? Is that what you're
a little
alluding
bit, to be honest? A little bit, yeah. Yeah, it does feel like it's like he knows his counter-attacking is his best asset, but really and truly, we need to find other ways to score.
Do we even have the players to play counter-attack at the moment, though? I mean,
we've got one. Well, then we don't know because, like,
and also Kudus looks knackered. Kudus looks knackered.
He looks completely knackered. I genuinely don't know if Colin Moani is actually a good finisher of the ball or not, because we can't get the ball to him, which is a big problem, which I'd like to think he is, because at the end of the day, he was bagging in goals for fun at Frankfurt. And when he went on loan to Juventus in January, he scored in his first game, I'm pretty sure, or maybe like the second game, even. But what the other thing that baffles me the most, and this is why it's a little bit upsetting, because I really, really backed Frank in the summer. I think he's a brilliant, he's a smart coach. And we saw these talks about, we're not taking a risk is a risk in itself. And then when we signed Xavi, the first clip we see is from Matt Wells when he gets on the ball. He's saying, "You do what you want to create." We've not seen any of that in the game in particular at all. It's been, you get the ball, pass it to the left, pass it to the right. It's not the free-flowing, supposedly attacking football that we were promised. And that was evident when we conceded the goal. When Van der Ven, Spence and Xavi would create that little triangle around Caicedo, the ball went to Xavi. Honestly, a player of his ability, and I've watched so much of him when he was at Leipzig and so on and so forth, he could easily turn around and drive forward. But his first instinct was to pass straight back to Van der Ven, and then we got caught out because of it. And there's a lot of stuff like that is starting to worry me, because we're seeing it game in, game out. And I don't know if it's just because it's the centre mid set up. I don't know if it's because we're just trying to be counter-attack at home and it's not working. I don't know the exact reason, but I just feel that we're playing like a mid-table team against the best at home, which should never be the case.
Let's hear from Thomas Frank quickly, and I'll bring Macca back in. This is what Thomas Frank said upon getting the job in terms of the brand of football he wants to play at Tottenham.
I'm very, very clear in all the principles I have in, every phase of the game. What I will like to see from the team and the players is I want us to be brave. I want us to be very aggressive, and I want to attack. And I think brave is absolutely linked in dare to do, to dares to do. And if you're not brave, it's very, very difficult to achieve anything. And I think it's very important that we take risk, because if you don't take risk, you also take risk. So that brave to dare to do, I think, is crucial. I think the aggressivity, that's difficult. Crucial also if you want to win something or achieve something, because you're not aggressive in duels on off the ball is difficult. It's a very competitive game, and of course need to attack. I would say that, of course, hurts massively. I've never been in charge of the team that created that little in one game, never. So that, of course, I will look into what we can do to make it better. But I think that's one thing. I think it's everything is a little bit linked. And today, we didn't hit the level.
So I'm not going to bring you in there. We just heard from Thomas Frank upon getting the job in terms of the type of football he wants to play. And then on the back of the Chelsea game, insinuating that he's never, well, he said it himself, they're not insinuating, he's actually said it. He's never known to be part of a team that's created so little. So what's failing him right now? Is it the players? Is it confidence to play at home with a bit more brave nature? What is it we're not doing? What is it we're lacking right now? Why are we not seeing what he told us from the outset is how he wants to play at home. Why are we not seeing that?
Well, a couple of things. Firstly, I mean, that first clip you played, I ain't seen that at all. The only time I've seen that is against Man City away, and we beat Man City away or at home every season. Don't matter who the manager is. I could be the manager and win a bogey team. We could still beat them. I mean, look, jokes aside, we ain't seen that at all. That high press, that aggressive high press, was there against Man City, right? But we ain't seen that. We have not seen that since. Everything that he talked about in that first clip that you just showed, we ain't seen any of it. At all, definitely not at home. I think the worrying thing, and I don't want to like put news out there that may or may not be, but we can only speculate, I suppose, at the end of the day on this. I can't remember who it was, maybe Jamie Redknapp or one of the people from Sky after the Villa game said something. They had an interview with Vicario. Vicario's interview, they picked out in Vicario's interview that he said that we weren't running. We weren't doing enough. It might have been a Villa game. I didn't see that in the game, actually. I was like, okay, that's an interesting take. I didn't realise that was the case. But it was the first bit that started to think, are the players on the same page as the manager? Then the second clip, you hear him in the press conference saying, he's defending himself. So fair enough. I've never had that lack of attacking ability before in a team, whatever he said. And he said, I think it's one part of the problem. We'll look at everything else. What do you mean? What else is the problem then? Again, we've had cryptics in the past. Even Pochettino was coming out with cryptics. So something's definitely not right. Something's definitely off. There's no doubt about it. I think it's not just probably he's right. It's probably not just one thing. He's bedding in. I don't want to go at him with the axe, right?
Yeah,
he's bedding in, so it takes him time. He's trying to find his feet. Maybe his philosophy is defend first, get that correct, and then go forward. Whereas the previous manager we just had was the complete opposite. So we've got to get our heads around that. And that's not comparing him to Ange. That's just the two different styles of football. It was like when Ange came in, we'd been used to having the defensive side of football, and then we had to get used to this gung ho attacking stuff. So there's a balance piece there. However, I actually think he's in his own head. I actually think he's in his own head. What George said earlier about the kind of the mid-table mentality or the Brentford or the big club situation, I think that's in his own head. I think if he starts doing Thomas Frank things, I think we start playing better. I think it starts to gel. I don't think Thomas Frank things are what we're seeing. Does that make sense? I'm trying to defend him in that way, but it's very, very difficult to defend Rick because it's shocking. The football is absolute turgid. Like come and have my seat if you want for a bit, because I tell you, it's just awful. I don't want to go.
The thing is, I think Jules, bless you, you're a fan that's home and away, right? So if you're home and away, 50% of the time this season you've been quite happy because you've seen some really good away wins in terms of grinding out results. And I think me and Jez had this conversation actually a few weeks ago that when you go away to a Leeds or an Everton, those kind of games you accept are going to be a tough grind, and you're happy to go there and get the win really, probably in different circumstances of what you would be to wanting to be seeing a much more refreshing performance at home. The problem I've got right now is that we're being told one thing from the manager, and yet we're not seeing that reflected onto the pitch. And, he actually said ahead of the Bournemouth game, ahead of the Wolves game, and ahead of the Chelsea game, we are going to come out the blocks flying. And we're not seeing that, And I totally understand, just to be very, very clear, as I've said now throughout this show, I don't think, and I think, Jason, you said this as well, I don't think the forwards are there. I just don't think we've got enough forward players that have got genuine quality that are going to affect things. But I also don't believe at home to Chelsea, the lack of passion, real desire to want to get on the ball and to attack the opposition. I'm just not seeing that. And I think, fans would accept if you lose to Chelsea, but you give it everything and you go and at least attack on goal. But we're not seeing that. And I think that's what comes down to the concerns right now as to the worries about us from an attacking third perspective. Spurs, we've lost 3 games at home under Frank, only won once. This was the 4th home game in a row where we failed to register an XG above 1.0. We know that our home form has been dreadful for over 12 to 18 months. So it's 3 wins in the last 19. Well, come on. Look, I think it's fair to say there was audible boos at half-time. Very, very clear again, frustration at full-time. I mean, Jace, where are we on this for you in terms of that incident with Mickey and Jed? Should we look too much into that for you? Is it concerning that, as the manager who should have the authority, the players have ignored what the manager's asked them to do?
I think it's very difficult or dangerous to speculate exactly what's going on because, the only people that know why he's walked past him is Jed, Spence and Mickey. That's for sure. You've got a scenario at the moment where several people are saying in the media, why are players going around the pitch applauding fans when there's dog loads of abuse coming their way and they're better to just get down the tunnel. So maybe they've taken that option. I don't know, but it certainly doesn't look good that they just literally walk past him. Maybe Jed is one of those, we can say he's a little bit surly and that's always been held against Jed. But Mickey's also there and that's his vice captain of one of the leadership groups. So it's the optics of it are certainly not great, are they? But, I'm sure come tomorrow morning that he'll have a word with those two and say, what the hell was going on if he hasn't already done that. But it wasn't a great sign, that's for sure.
It wasn't. Before I bring George in to get his reaction to that, let's quickly hear from Thomas Frank, who did respond on that incident, what he made of both Van der Ven and Jed Spence's reaction.
All the players are, of course, frustrated. They would like to do well. They like to win. Like to perform well. So I understand that. I think it's about which is difficult, of course, to be consistent in good times and bad times. That's why I went around to the fans as I did. It's more fun when we win. I can tell you that.
Sam.
Thomas, just to follow up, that is quite a striking image of you looking over your shoulder as the two players walk past you. Is that acceptable for you that they would ignore you and walk off like that?
I think, understand why you ask the question, but I think that's one of the small issues. We have Mickey van der Ven and Jed Spence that doing everything they can, and I think they perform very well so far this season. Everyone is frustrated.
George, let's come to you. What did you make of that for you? Because I presume you might not have seen that at full time, which was probably in the process of leaving the stadium. What was your immediate thought when you saw that on social media circulating Mickey van der Ven, Jed Spence ignoring the manager's request to applaud the fans?
Yeah, I mean, I put on Instagram that I said it's starting to get a bit toxic, and I do sympathise to the players for a little bit of like you've just you've stunk up the gaff for 90 minutes. You just want to get your head down and this, that, and the other, and on one hand, if they did go around clapping the fans, if they didn't actually mean it, and it's just a bit more of a symbolic thing, then what does it really matter? I think the proof comes in the next few games. I want to see a reaction from those two specifically. I think Frank obviously just looked very bemused and was very confused as to why they would just completely ignore him. And I think the problem is now, does he have to stamp his authority and not start?
That's what I mean. Should there be discipline there, George? Should there be discipline for those two players, in your opinion?
Potentially, but you do run the risk of it just absolutely spiraling, and you don't want to lose a couple of key players so soon. I mean, especially Van der Ven was captain and was captain in previous matches as well. So I was a little bit disappointed in him in that respect. That he was showing some real good signs of being a leader the last few games when he had to put that captain's armband on, and then I guess you could argue he was at fault for the goal. They were at fault for the goal, Xavi as well, including that. But I was just disappointed to see the reaction from those two, considering it kind of was them that led to the goal. So no, I think I would not be surprised. Well, especially now Doggy's back, I would not be surprised to see him drop Spence. But again, saying that, the pressure's on Frank to get results, especially at home. We've got Copenhagen at home next. You can't then just drop Van der Ven because he's walked off past you. I think he's probably going to say what he has to say to the presser. He's going to put it up to it's a heat in the moment thing and being fuming of losing that game and not playing well. And they just got to move on from it. I think the more we dwell on this, the more it's just going to cause more conflict and more issues. Look, I can also understand them not. I'm not being funny. We were booing them straight away. The whole crowd were booing them straight away. So I can understand their initial reaction.
Because they were shit.
To go straight off. But wasn't Spence the one at Newcastle trying to get Colomwani and whoever it was to come back out to applaud the away fans? So it might just be purely from hearing that the crowd that they've just reacted in poorly. And
what do you make of that, Macca? Just for you, I mean, someone that's been in business and had to manage teams in, I don't know, age you at all, a long time, I'll say. How does the manager get that right? Because like George said rightly, we've got two massive games this week, two massive home games, which he needs results in. but at the same time, he needs to keep his authority in the dressing room. If you're Thomas Frank, what do you do in that scenario? I mean, I think, to be fair, he handled it very, very well in the press conference, but behind the scenes, what do you think you would be doing, Mako, with those two players?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think, you've got to talk to them about what they, like Jay said, it's really difficult because you don't know. If it was petulance, if it was them walking off and giving
Which looks like it, doesn't it?
It does look like. So if that's what it was, and it was like, screw you, boss, I'm not interested. We're if I'm the manager, then they're not playing at the week. They're not playing on Tuesday. They're not playing at Copenhagen. Sorry. So that's the reality, because you can't, regardless of results, you can't let that happen. It starts to boil over. There's something not right. There's something not right. And I'll be honest with you, team and viewers and listeners, right? How long have we been saying this for? Like, we all wanted Levy out, or a lot of us wanted Levy out. So Levy's out, and still happening. Yeah, loads of us wanted Ange out. Ange's gone, still happening. Loads of us wanted Conte out. Loads of us wanted Stellini out. It's still happening. It's constantly happening.
Are you referring to dramas or player performances, or what are you referring to in particular?
Just Tottenham. I'm not being weird, right? I'm being absolutely serious here.
I know.
We are champions of Europe, right? We won the Europa League last season.
Yeah.
We are in a state. Oh, look at this, man. This is just the joy. We were there. We were out there in Bilbao. It was absolutely outstanding. And, and it's almost like I'm embarrassed to talk about it and remind myself of it now, because we're not allowed to. Like, what's the point in winning trophies if I'm not allowed to talk about it? Like, I want to talk about it. It weren't even 6 months ago. Like, what the actual here? Like, it wasn't even 6 months ago. Now we're sitting here talking about players' unrest and this, that, and the other. I think Thomas has been praised for his man management skills and the way he has, and that's why I find it a bit strange that this is what's going on. Like, I don't want to be having a go at like Frank. I'm not saying this to have a go at Frank, sorry. What I'm saying is that he's been praised for his man management skills, and that's why it doesn't add up that this is happening. Or, Vicario coming out and saying he's the leadership group, right? Mickey van der Ven's the captain. He's got the captain's armband on there, isn't he? And you're thinking,
he's part of that group. He's part of that group now.
Right. And Vicario coming out and saying the other, and you're thinking, if they're not running, I can't remember what game it was. I forget it. They're come thick and fast.
I think the thing you're referring to is pre-Villa. He was interviewed pre-Villa. I think that's what you're referring to, Maka. And he made a reference to say, we're not doing enough.
We're not doing enough, or we're not running enough. It was the basics. And I think the commentator, one of the Sky pundits, brought up and said, hey, that's the basics, man. What? So if they're not doing the basics and they're not, they're walking off the pitch and you've got Mickey, it doesn't add up for Thomas Frank being a man manager. And that's why I come back to the point I made earlier about 10 minutes ago, is that I think he's in his own head. You just need to get back to doing Thomas Frank things, because it doesn't add up what he was doing at Brentford. And look, and I did say this as well, and I do agree with Jules. Like, it feels like we're a mid-table team and so on. So, and some people say that we are. We finished 17th last year. Everyone keeps reminding me. So, maybe we are, a mid-table team. But I think that's an easy thing just to throw at Thomas Frank. It's, you're just a mid-table team. That's what I mean. It doesn't add up. There's something not quite clicking. And maybe what it is that he's getting the defensive work set first. Like, Ange did this in the opposite way. Ange did this in the opposite way. He got the attacking firing, and we were leaking goals. And it's like, don't worry, when we get it right, it'll click. And we're just seeing that. Maybe we're just seeing that the opposite way around, like I said earlier. But there's just something not quite right. And the home form, we do look scared. We do look, it's not as if, and again, I mean this with the greatest respect as well. I mean this as a compliment. I think Tottenham fans are amazing. It's not as if we're like baying for blood at home, is it? We're not that type of crowd. But we just, so they can't be going out frightened of. No. Just let the bloody shackles off at home. Stop the freaking double pivot. Give the freaking ball to the forwards. Let them say, hey, you know what you learned over the last 2 seasons under that chaotic guy? Just do a bit of that chaotic thing, and we'll sort it out at the back with my defensive work, and jobs are good. And and then away from home, tighten it up, go fucking double pivot, and and get the away form going. Something needs to change. If you keep doing what you're doing and expect a different result, we all know that that's insanity. So just do something different.
I think, Mackie, you make such an important point there, and this is what really frustrates me that I see online. A lot of people seem to think outside of Spurs fans, a lot of people look at Tottenham fans. I know, G, I know you do a lot of work with other fans as well. A lot of people seem to look at Spurs and think we're really entitled. I don't think it is that whatsoever. I think, what we've gone through the last kind of 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and that people may like him, people might not like him. Pochettino, for me, in his tenure, definitely season 2, 3, and 4, seemed to get that balance right where we would attack really well and we would defend quite well too. And I don't think anybody is asking for anything that's so extreme. We're asking for a team that can be organised defensively and can also show signs of attacking play and attack the opposition. I don't know why that is so hard to expect or ask for. I mean, again, we've had this situation for the last 4 or 5 years, and Mac, it's good that you come back in here, that we've had either one way or the other. We've either had, full on defensive, with all due respect, in terms of Mourinho and Conte, and then Ange, bless him, that was so focused on making us an attacking team that defensively we were leaking goals. I just don't buy this notion that we can't have both. And I don't know why you have to settle for one or the other. I don't know why we can't have both. And I think Frank got the job on the proviso, and maybe Jason might disagree here, that Frank, maybe working with better players, was going to get there. But we'll make this point. I don't think the forwards Frank has got here are anywhere near what he had at Brentford. And that's why I have sympathy for him. Because I look at our forwards now, in my opinion, Jason rattled off earlier about the level of forwards that we're at. I think this is probably, it's no mean to be disrespectful or personal to players that are here. Probably the worst set of forwards we've had in the last, 2 decades. 2 decades, I would go back and say probably the worst set of forwards a manager's got to work with. Mac, I'll let you come back in. You already make a point.
It's just on the Pochettino thing, because, again, just to bring balance, and I mean, I totally agree with you, and I love him, but the first 4 months of Pochettino's reign was terrible. And he was on the verge of getting sacked. And if it wasn't for a deflected free kick from Harry Kane against Villa, he probably goes, because Levy pulls the trigger as normal. So, it's, again, football turns on certain things. I mean, we might go, look, it's very unlikely at the moment, but we might go to Stoke. We might go to Arsenal in a couple of weeks and turn them over. And all of a sudden, if we go and defend and we get 20 shots at target, well, it won't be shots, sorry. If we get 20 headers at target from set pieces against us, and we keep a clean sheet and we nick one from one of our long throws, that'd be ironic, wouldn't it? If we go and beat them 1-0, all of a sudden it changes, and all of a sudden stuff happens. So I'm trying to be as not being gung-ho. I'm trying to be pragmatic, actually, which is ironic. I'm trying to be as balanced and pragmatic as possible. What I would say, though, is that Spurs fans, we know how we want to be. There's a certain portion of Tottenham fans that want to be defending first, be solid, don't get beaten, because they've been scarred by the chaotic stuff of Ange. And I totally understand that. But most Spurs fans, if we're all honest with each other, want to go and dare. We want to go and be on the front foot. We want to. And it's not about losing, playing a style of football and losing. It's about our identity. And 100%. When you can't identify with your team and can't identify with your club, the crest that you're wearing starts to get blurry. And that's the point. Is that we've got a set of core values and a set of principles in the football club that we are at the moment not adhering to, and that's the problem.
Yeah, I think that's so spot on. I honestly do. And I think that's the point, isn't it? We're match week 10, aren't we, Premier League wise now? And look, I know, again, people keep telling me to refer to the table. I know, look, the table at the moment, we're 5th in the league. We're in a fairly good spot. Again, bar the one team at the top, we don't want to talk about that running away with it. We're pretty much in touch with everybody else. But, we know as well, cut of defeats, you tumble right down that table, which, to be fair, why I keep saying at the moment, Jace, that, the table's irrelevant to me right now. I'm looking purely on the eye test about what we're doing, how we're improving, what our identity is. And that's my biggest concern at the moment, that, I've reached match week 10, and I have to say that definitely at home, I've just got no idea what our identity is. And I think it's fair to say Thomas Frank also is really, really struggling with that, Jason. And again, as we know, so many games can be thick and fast. And you also make this point. It's very hard to find time on the training ground to improve these things.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of things. I think whilst you've said it again about the quality of our forward players. Don't forget Harry Redknapp had a Pavlyuchenko brand new to the league and Fraser Campbell to work with in his first spell. So there's another batch of not great forwards. I think there's, we understand that we haven't got a team that can be free-flowing, playing brilliant, expensive football at the moment. We understand that. But have we got a team that should be better at home than Burnley, than Leeds, than Wolves? We're not asking to be Real Madrid or Barcelona or Bayern Munich, but I do expect us to be better at home than Burnley, Leeds and Wolves and teams like that, who have all had far more shots at goal than we have in their home games. I mean, West Ham today have been an absolute shambles at home. They've played on the front foot against Newcastle today. Hit the post twice, scored 3 goals, had other chances. That's West Ham. We've taken apparently their best player in Kudus. So, this, you can't dress it up. That's for sure. I don't know how much time we're getting on the training pitch, because you don't get that much time once the season starts and you're playing twice a week. I don't know if, and only the coaches and that know what they're genuinely doing. But are we doing more work? Because when he talks about phase 1 and we're looking more this, are we still concentrate on trying to be even more solid at phase 1 at the expense of doing the amount of work we need to do at the top end of the pitch? Only the staff and Thomas Frank knows how much work we're putting in to either ends of the pitch. And one of the things that Thomas Frank was apparently brilliant at is getting his message across to the players. But every week we hear that we want to play on the front foot, but as soon as we walk out on the pitch, it's as if those players haven't heard that message. Now, I'm not saying Thomas Frank isn't telling them to do that, but however him and his staff are telling them, they clearly don't understand what they're being told. And we've heard, the other thing is when Thomas Frank took over, we've heard he's brilliant at adapting, he's wonderfully tactics, even some refer to him as a tactical genius. We've heard he has a plan for every opponent. And we've heard one of the key things is he improves players. And I'm looking at a player like Richie, right? And Richie is a bang, bang, bang average Premier League footballer. I wouldn't say he's poor, but he's bang average. He's been bang average since he walked through the door. But our frustration at Richie for the 3 years he's been here is that his failure to get on the pitch. When he's got on the pitch, I don't remember too many brilliant games he's had, but he has managed to find the back of the net a dozen times or 10 times. There was a period last year when he scored, 8 goals in 12 games. He now looks like a drunk leaving a pub on a Sunday night. I mean, that's how bad he actually now looks. So has he improved Richie? Has he improved him? Has he improved Matisse Tell? Has he improved Odebear? Has he improved Johnson? I mean, we can talk about Johnson, but still got 18 goals last year. We now haven't even got that.
But just for balance, Jace, are we expecting, match week 10, as we've said, he's had 14, 15 games with these players. Would you expect at this point to see an uplift in those players for you at this point?
I'd expect to see a weed growing through concrete in 15 weeks, yeah. I don't expect Matisse Tell to be winning player of the year, but I do expect a little bit more from these players than what Burnley get at home. That's for sure.
Let's talk about
just quickly on that, just to finish off on that. I think it is again coming back down to, are the players happy in the? Is this a happy camp right now, Rick? Let's ask that question. Is it? Because of all them things that are going on, like all them things that Jace just said, it does come back down to they're either not listening, or he's not getting his point across, or he doesn't want to. I mean, I do, it's just something not right, is there? What is it, Rick? It's just what's going to happen.
One thing I will say to
George.
It's not really defending Frank. It's more about to do with what the players weren't doing right. I think Frank's talked about so much in the past about how important crosses are into the box in certain scenarios from certain areas of the pitch. What we saw against Chelsea was Pedro Porro, who is usually, we all know, unbelievable at whipping a ball into box. Yep. We've seen last couple of games now, So many of his crosses have gone straight to the goalkeeper or just completely away from our players. We've seen Kudus. I can't even count on both hands how many corners we had where it went straight to Sanchez's hands and he didn't learn from every single one of them. And I don't think that's by instruction from Frank. I think this is probably really and truly some overworked players that have had to play almost every minute of every game because of how many injuries we've had. We've lost so many goals and assists in this side, whether that's from Solanke, whether that's from Maddison, Kulusevski. Kulusevski had some of the highest key passes in the league in the last 2 seasons. We're missing that and his ability to carry the ball. I know we all complained about Sonny a little bit last year about not being the level he was, but he still got, 12 goals, something like that?
Yeah.
He was still contributing, but it just wasn't the Sonny level that we expected. We have lost so many goals on that side. And I'm looking at that front line. I think Kudus is an absolutely fantastic player, but the last season, he wasn't known for his goal scoring. I know he scored quite a few his first season at West Ham, but at the moment, he's providing assists for us. I'm not really seeing any goal scorers in that front line because we don't have Solanke there. We don't have Maddison, who's provided a lot of goal for us. Johnson, like Jason was touching on there, was our goal provider, but he's still got he's got other issues on the pitch that I feel need addressing as well. It's as much as I've complained about Frank a little bit, it's quite easy to pin it on him when the reality is, do we actually have any goal scorers in this side at this present moment? Because I've seen countless times Xavi Simons, who I touted as a brilliant talent, but he's not impressed me so far. He'd get the ball, run across the edge of the box, not take any shots. And it wasn't just Chelsea. This happened multiple games so far. Kudus, who I think is brilliant, and in fact was the only shot on target, I believe. There have been countless games where he gets to the edge of the area, decides not to have a shot, and then recycles it to someone else and this, that, and the other. We do get into these positions, but for some reason, I remember the crowd just getting frustrated. Like, why are we not shooting in these scenarios? And that's where I think we're not going to know whether that is a Frank design. Like, do they have to score in a certain way? Or is it just the players are either tired or low on confidence? That's something we're just not going to know because it's more for the backroom staff. So it's not all just on Frank, but it doesn't help when our midfield setup in particular just screams, we're going to sit back and defend and hopefully get you on a counter-attack.
Maka, come in first on that point.
Yeah, I think the worrying thing for me as well is you mentioned a stat earlier with the table, and you said, it's not about the table or whatever, but we are 2 points ahead of where we were this time last year, and we finished 17th, as everybody keeps reminding us.
Yeah.
We'll just let that sink in.
Actually, we're less than that. One point ahead of last season.
Okay, so it's only 1 point ahead of last season. So this time last season, we're at 16 points after 10 games.
That just shows you why the table's irrelevant at the moment, Macca, doesn't it? It shows you why the table's irrelevant right now.
Also, again, if you play that forward and go, okay, if we play like this for the next 30 games,
we're going to tumble down
28 games or whatever. Well, no, we end up losing 12 games a season, and that'll put you 9th or 8th mid-table, and then it comes back to the Brentford, and that's kind of where we're at. So I think it's everything at the moment is compounded, right? You get beat by Villa after going 1-0 up, and then that compounds the home form again. Then you have a bit of a stinker. Got absolutely ripped a new one without losing, didn't we? Away in the Champions League. And then you go to Newcastle. We beat Everton, fair play. But then we go to Newcastle and get beat pretty, comfortably. And then we're out of a cup. So that's one key thing. And then we just got absolutely ruined. I know it was only 1-0, but absolutely got ruined at Chelsea. And everything's just compounding, isn't it, Rick? So and now we've got that fixtures that we've got coming up now. And you're thinking,
it's a tough...
deep breath. Where are we getting points on from there? I mean, if we don't beat Copenhagen at home, which we've been okay in Europe, which is weird.
Europe's actually Villarreal.
Well, the results are, Jason won't agree with that with Villarreal, but at the end of the day, cup competitions are different because it is just about the result. And I think that's where the league form isn't. Let's be absolutely brutally honest. No one thinks we're going to win the league this season. And actually, the league table at the moment, we're 5th. It's not so bad. But it's the football that we're playing week in, week out that isn't great. Even the away form, I'm going to say this because the away form's good in terms of the results. Yeah, and I think this is important in terms of the results. Now, if we were playing if we had 9 shots against us and won 1-0, which is doable, like Man United did it to us at Wembley, if you remember, David De Gea had a man of the match performance. If we beat Chelsea 1-0, had 1 shot on target, and then defended for like crazy and won the game 1-0, I don't think we're having this conversation, but it's still the football is turgid. Now, the football was look, we scored 2 set pieces against Everton. Like 2. I mean, it's just fucking set pieces. It's fucking turgid, even though we're good. So there's something not right. And I think, again, I'm not having a go at Thomas because he's got to get it right. It's that timing piece. But it's compounding every time. The pressure is building and building. Whether or not it's a sacking, I don't know. But the pressure is building. That there's tension in the air. The players aren't happy. The fans aren't happy. And that happens with one thing, Rick. You've been around long enough, mate. You know what happens.
Of course, we've all been the show for so many years. I mean, we've seen those signs, right? We've seen those signs so many times. Just need to address the home form. Look ahead to Copenhagen to close us on this point. Jason, let me come to you about the Premier League home form because again, you are a man that. I know you love. I know you love going to see us at home. I know, just to be clear, you're not loving going to see us home at the moment, but it is pretty damn in the home from right now. And I think a lot of people like you, bless you, that you want to see a certain brand of football there. Of the 20 Premier League matches played at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in the past 12 months, Spurs have won just 4, lost 12. It's 3 wins in our last 19 Premier League home games. We've played 20 over the last year, like I've mentioned there. 4 wins, 4 draws, 12 defeats, 16 points from a possible 60. 0.8 points per game, 20% win record. I mean, look, it's not just the results, but it's the performances. And I think that's where, again, it comes back to that point. And again, I looked at this crazy stat that's come out over the last 24 hours here, that Tottenham have lost 41 Premier League games in 6.5 years at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Arsenal, I hate bringing them up on this show, I'm so sorry, they've lost 48 Premier League games at the Emirates in 19 years. I mean, the difference, and I don't like bringing them up onto the show, but the home form we know stretches beyond Thomas's reign here. So how are we going to address this? Because this problem is not getting better. If anything, it's getting worse. So how do we try and address that in a week where we've got 2 massive home games? And I think a lot of fans, I think it's fair to say this, want to see performances, right? They want to see performances against Copenhagen and Manchester United. How does he address that, Jace?
I don't know, because when you look at our results, Wolves have got 1 point away from home at Tottenham.
They've sacked the manager.
Bournemouth have got 1 away win and 1 clean sheet this season away from home at Tottenham. Aston Villa have won 1 Premier League away from home this season at Tottenham. I mean, so forget Chelsea. The only thing I'd say about that Arsenal stat is, Rick, they haven't had a home game for about 123 years because they play in Woolwich. So, I don't consider the Emirates as their home. It's the latest place they've parked their caravan. They haven't had a home game for donkey's years. But no, I mean, that's a horrific stat, isn't it?
Terrible.
There's only 6. I don't know what we do with our home form. I mean, you can... that tells you how bad our home form's been in that stadium. But you start the season off, you win 3-1. We actually played quite well against Burnley.
Yeah,
it's a new era, so you kind of think, right, it's what's happened last year has been parked. Take some confidence from that, but we've been woeful ever since, and I don't know what it is. The fans, it's not a great atmosphere. We can talk about that, but there is a mental block at playing at Tottenham, isn't there? And some of that mental thing, I mean, as Lee says, there's obviously something going on. Whatever the rights and wrongs of the sacking last season, wherever you come from, whether he should have gone, whether he shouldn't have gone, whether it's justified, whether losing 22 games, some of those players last year were told this club badly needs a trophy, and you'll be legends. The first ones that get across the line will be legends for winning it.
Yeah.
And they've gone and won it, but they've effectively then been told, actually, that trophy win was totally worthless because it means sweet FA. It means, you've done nothing because the manager's been sacked. So, from being told that they're going to be legends, they're instantly told, actually, what you did last year was a waste of time and worthless. So I'm not surprised they've got scrambled minds as well. It doesn't make sense, does it? And I think there is a level of toxicity in the stadium because there's a lot of people that don't think he should have gone. So they're going to jump on everything. And I'm one. There's a lot of people that will jump on the fact that we should have improved because we've gone from a clueless clown and a fraud and all of those things, and we're not seeing any improvement from that. So it's a whole mishmash of things going on. I don't think there's any one particular reason, but all I will say is whatever happened last year, this form at the moment is on this manager. It has to be on this manager.
I know you've said this is not about wanting Ange back. This is not about It's not about wanting Ange back. We're judging.
He's available. He's available, team.
Not at all.
Breaking news is available.
Not at all.
All joking aside, though, this is what frustrates me. When you have a conversation like this, the problem is a lot of people assume that if you at the moment are saying you've got concerns with Frank, people jump to the conclusion, well, you want Ange back. But no one's saying that. And no one has said on this show so far to sack Thomas Frank. But all we're simply saying is that the form is concerning and needs to be addressed.
Absolutely. We're saying of all the things that everybody told us Thomas Frank was good at, then go and be the Thomas Frank you're supposed to be. It's not be Ange Postecoglou, because I was a fan of what Ange wanted Tottenham to be. He wasn't capable of delivering what he wanted Tottenham to be. So no, I don't go back, but I will never go against the disagreement that I want Tottenham to be what he wanted Tottenham to be. Not afraid of playing anyone front foot. Don't care if it's Real Madrid coming to our stadium. We're Tottenham, we're having a go. I do want us to be that. And you're right, Poch had that vision exactly the same. You looked at him at the rainbow and thinking, this is my club. He got our football club.
He just got it.
Exactly, in the way that Klopp got Liverpool. Klopp's only got Arteta gets Arsenal. He wants them to be Stoke. He's delivering Stoke. They spent £1 billion to be Stoke. That's his vision for them, and they're all buying into being Stoke. So that's great. But no, we don't want Ange back. But the Thomas Frank that we hear, and nobody's saying sack Thomas Frank. No. Not really. But they're saying the Thomas Frank, all the qualities that you bring to the table, I'm seeing none. Bring them to the table, because if you don't bring them to the table, you will get sacked and you will have people calling for you to be sacked.
I think we're in a bit of a catch-22 situation, or he's in a catch-22 situation a little bit, in the sense of, I think a lot of the main things that he was brought in to do was the fact that we say improve players, and more specifically forwards. He's got an absolutely incredible track record for forwards and improving them. When you look at Morpay, Watkins, Benrahma, Tony, and Buemo, Wissa. Now Sade's reaping the benefits of that as well. He had a good season last year.
Yeah,
these were unknown players beforehand, and I think it's a little bit easier at a team like Brentford because their expectations aren't going to be so high that these players aren't going to have to deliver every single week. But what he did, like when you look at last season, every single week, assuming they were fit, every single week it was Sade, Wissa, and Buemo. That is your front three. You do it every week. They might not perform one week, but he's in there next week. He's always going to be there next week so you can develop and play them. I think right now, partly because of injuries and partly because he hasn't necessarily worked out who is the best front line, we've not had a settled attacking line at all so far. No. Yeah, at one point played Odebear 4 games in a row. Okay, granted, he got a little bit of an injury, but even at the start of the season, he wasn't really playing him, but then was a little bit. Unfortunately for him, because as I've said multiple times on the show, I think he's far, far, far better on the left than he is as a striker. But he had to play striker. Colomwani was injured. Solanke was injured. Richarlison he had to sort of rotate between. So you're then shoehorning him into a position he can't play in. And the only one that really is settled in their position is Kudus. And you can't work an attack with 3 players. But what the catch-22 situation is, say he does want to persist with, let's use Odebear as an example. Maybe he will improve Odebear on the left wing and he wants him there for the future. Or it can be Tell, it can be anyone. Do we, as Tottenham fans, have the patience to let him play these players every week so that they can build relationships with other players? Because that is, I think, is a very, very, very key factor. It's not just about the tactics and then this and the other. They've got to build good relationships so they can knock the ball between each other. Are we willing to persist with them playing that, where there might be a bit of a rut, but at one point it will just click? This has happened with Sonny. This has happened with Modric. You've got to just play these players for them to be able to develop the way we want them to. But I do worry that we just won't have the patience for that.
I agree. Maka, is going to bounce. We're going to close with Jason and George on Copenhagen. Maka, question to you, because I think you're back with us, I think, next week. Maka, will it get better? How important is these next 2 home games for the club, for the season? Give us your verdict on how important these next 2 home games are.
Yeah, sorry, buddy. I think, look, we need a result at home desperately, just to lift a bit of something. And I don't think the Copenhagen result will do that. It'd be nice. Don't get me wrong. We don't, and also don't get me twisted here. We absolutely need to beat Copenhagen at home. I don't think that's going to lift it in the way that we want it to. But 2 home wins will definitely start to do it. And again, it doesn't take long. Things can change really, really quickly. It doesn't matter. It just, Richie scoring one off his arse, or Odegaard putting one in the top corner, or Xavi. I don't know if he's injured, but Xavi or Simmons, as we're calling him. I don't know what we're calling him. Dropping a shoulder and tipping one in. What excites me about before tonight? I didn't watch Simmons at all. I didn't know much about him. When people were raving about him, I'm like, okay, that's cool. I have seen nothing to suggest anything that he's any good. But what excites me about tonight is that George said that, George, you said you watched him a lot in the Bundesliga, and he's a quality player. Now that, I trust George. George is the man, right? This guy knows his football. So I'm thinking, okay, that's amazing. So he's not a bad player overnight. And again, he's had 10 games in the Premier League. I think the biggest thing that's come out of tonight is, again, I think George, Jay, you both just made the points, is that the consistency level of playing players. I do not see the same team sheet every single week. Now, here's the irony.
Except
people
for 2
say to
players
me,
in midfield.
Right, yeah, which is the craziest part. That is the craziest part. Is that's probably the bit that everyone else would change, yet Thomas isn't changing that. The crazy, the thing about this is, I remember even back to the Poch days. We've done this show now together, what, Rick, 8 years, 8 years or something like that. I remember, coming on the show, and we were at the Love Sport as well, and with you, Jason, and the rest of the team and whatever. And we're Jamie and John and whatever. And we're doing a show, and we're talking about, I remember this in the Blue Book, talking about we hadn't had the same centre-back pairing or the same back 4 for, I don't know. Do you remember? It's about something like 2 years or something that we hadn't played for 5 games on the trot or something. Again, consistency. If you think about consistency in every part of your life, whatever you do, if it's the gym, if it's your food, if it's your, if it's your job, and whatever it is, it has to be consistent for you to be successful. And if you're continually changing over and over again, Bergvall is not a left wing player. What the fuck is he doing out there? Simmons also isn't, although Bundesliga-wise, he did play out there quite a lot as well, didn't he? George will back that up, I think. But the players that we've got, I mean, he's finding his feet. Is he left? Is he the centre? We don't know, and I think that is also the problem. We don't know. I'm not sure the players know, and that means I don't think the coaching staff know, and therefore Thomas don't know, and that's what we're kind of trying to figure out. And there's a lot of frustration around. So 2 home wins, I think. Copenhagen, let's just look for Chase will kill me in a minute if I start looking beyond Copenhagen. So look at Copenhagen, win at home, put a decent performance, clean sheet, nice shots on target, get the South Stand rock and get the team, the crowd behind us, and we go, okay, let's start to build from there. And that's all you can do, isn't it? You got to, that's it. Put one foot in front of the other, keep walking. The desert is barren, but we will get to our destination. You can't just keep going back to where it's comfortable. You can't keep looking back at the village. You've got to go forward. And that's what we've got to do.
I think everyone's following Manaka on Instagram. I think all of us do need to go to the ice bath at the moment ahead of this next
Get in
week.
it, mate. I'm going in. Let's go.
Maka, you're a star. Send you loads of love. We're going to see Maka back with us next week.
Big
Let's
love.
remind
Thanks,
you
Rick.
what Thomas Frank said. My pleasure, mate. Let's remind you what Thomas Frank did say upon getting the job and how important it is to play the attacking football he wants.
In few words, the intention is to play aggressive front-footed football. And I know the ethos and the history of the club is massive on attacking football, and I think there's so much attacking talent in the squad. I'm very excited about that. They clearly shown over the last 2 seasons that the ability to score goals is fantastic, and I'm very, very in on that. I love a team that's scoring goals. Very, very big on principles. What we do on the final third in terms of creating chances, crosses, spring balls in the box, play behind, stuff like that. I think it's key. So just want to build on that attacking football we already have here in the club. I'm a big believer. I always say this one-liner: if you don't take risk, you also take risk. So I think it's important that we take risk. A risk is
is, for example, if we play man-man and creating things. So I'm a big believer of that. We need to be brave. The players need to be brave when we play, and they need to trust themselves. So I will do my very best to install that trust, and the players need to be brave. For me, if they lose the ball by trying, it's never a problem for me. Of course, I can react, it's natural, but they need to do that. But if they don't work hard, I struggle more with that. So if they do everything they can and they lose the ball, they try, no problem. But it's more if they don't work hard. That's my non-negotiable.
So yeah, that was Thomas Frank there. We've revved him up, Thomas Frank. We've revved him up, I think, to 0.75 there, just to try and rev us all up for Copenhagen to come on Tuesday. Interesting. I mean, again, a reminder there, it's what I think me and George were actually speaking about in our little private WhatsApp group. We were saying that if you don't take a risk, it's also a risk. So, George, big week, 2 home games, Copenhagen to come on the Tuesday. You need to see more risks, George. Is that fair? What does he do this week with the players? Again, like we've said, very little time here to get the group together, make changes really because of the recovery days and training in between, which Jason alluded to so much. What does he do this week to try and get the players focused for 2 home games? Is it good it's 2 home games rather than 2 away games, George? What do you think?
Oh, that's a good question. I would like to think it's good because it gives him the opportunity to rectify himself. But with the way we've been playing this year, is it a good thing for us and our heart rates? I don't think so. No, I think I don't envy his job in the slightest because there's a couple of things you need to balance. When we're in a rut at home at the moment, and like we've literally just said, we want consistency. We want to see the footballers on the pitch, the proper players on the pitch. The problem is, we alluded to it earlier in the show, Kudus looks knackered. Porro looks knackered. Man United on the weekend is a massive game as well. As much as we want to see consistency, he's also got to balance that with not killing the players.
The problem is, OG, just quickly, on Mo, I'll let you come back on this. The problem with Mo, and I think we all knew this and you knew this as well because of the window that we had, and you was here to obviously come on to discuss the failings of the window on a number of players, to not go back there again, but it wasn't humanly possible to having to keep up the levels of the whole season when your system is so reliant on a single player's physicality. It just wasn't going to be possible, was it, G? And here we are, 10 games into the Premier League, and we've got these concerns.
Exactly, which is why we were so adamant on trying to get Savinho, and when we looked at other players like Semenyo and stuff before in the window, and supposedly Lookman and that. We don't know if we actually were, but I'm sure the club were looking at them. Savinho was obviously a very public one. I think, like we said, I think there was a little bit over reliance on him. Maybe that's stuff we can look to rectify going forward in the January and summer windows, which is why I think we definitely have to give him time, regardless of this poor home form at the moment, because otherwise we are just going to wear players like Kudus into the ground. It's just going to happen. But maybe that's when, do we tweak it slightly? We don't have to play a back 5 every week, but do we play a back 5 in some games to relieve the burden of Kudus, and then maybe you go with a top 2 of Richarlison and Kolomouani with Xavi in behind? This is just an example of thing off the top of my head. That could potentially relieve some pressure off of Kudus, whilst also giving us a bit of solidity at the back by having the 5 players at the back, and you can have Palhinha in front, for example. Maybe there's stuff that Frank can look into, or maybe there's just a way of building up on the left side that we can do that helps Kudus out a little bit. Because the problem is, I know a lot of fans were liking the last couple of games that we changed our building up shape back to a 3-2-5.
Yeah,
that did mean that Spence was on the left, and because we were doing this double 10, which I think worked in parts, it just meant that we had no natural left winger on the pitch at all, because obviously Bergvall was there. Xavi obviously can play there, but we're using him as the 10.
Yeah.
I think the issue is, without having a natural left winger on the pitch in those instances, you're still over relying on Kudus, because Spence, as much as he's defensively amazing, I think he's quite limited going forward. Maybe with the return of Doggy, that changes. Maybe we do have better luck on the left side with someone who's more of a natural left wing back, or someone that can that is more comfortable on the left hand side. Who knows? But yeah, I think in terms of, sorry, I've gone on a mad tangent there, but to circle back to Copenhagen, I think we really do need to get a win under the belt, because we know how quickly you can get toxic. Same way Lee said, a couple of wins and all of a sudden we're turning around. If you all of a sudden don't get a good result against Copenhagen, and then Man United, who haven't beaten us since 2022, if you let them beat us at home, then things will look really, really bad going into the international break.
Are you worried, George, then, in these next 7 days, given an international break is looming? Do we need to get a couple of wins at home? I mean, is it that, are you already in your mind thinking, God, it's that stage already in terms of we desperately to get these couple of wins?
I'm not worried in the sense of worried for Frank's job, but I'm worried about is the history of going into these international breaks. If we don't have good results, I know we fixed it last time around, but in general we don't have good results.
No.
And then if more players go and get injured in these international breaks, and then we've got Arsenal, PSG after, it's going to start looking a lot worse. That's a bit that worries me, is the knock on it has afterwards. But I think really and truly, and I think someone in the chat actually pointed this out, we are just in a period where we're going to have to ride through these injuries we currently have, try and pick up the results where we can. It might not be pretty, but if we can just beat Copenhagen at home the same way we could beat Villarreal at home, there will be complaints, no doubt. But I think we just need to get that win to give that little bit of a boost from Manchester United on Saturday, who we know we can beat and have done very recently in a very competition. So, but yeah, it's just I want to see some just positive football. Whether that's like if that's playing Kudus down the middle because he's strong and he can clearly take players on. Whether that's unleashing Xavi a bit more to be a little bit more creative and maybe not get on his back. And if he loses the ball, okay, some passes were terrible. Don't get me wrong, but with these creative players, they're going to give the ball away every now and again. We can't hound on them every single time it happens. Otherwise, they'll choose not to be creative. I think that's where we've got to play our part as well. But it's a tough one. It's been frustrating to watch so far, but he needs to come in with a positive game on Tuesday.
I say this from someone that was admirable of Frank by the fact that I know he would focus so much on the opposition, but I'd like the focus to be a little bit more on what we do rather than the opposition. I think the concern I would say, and it's probably back to what Jason, I think you had maybe reservations about this with Frank, that we'd be so focused on what the other team would do that maybe we'd kind of lose ourselves within that of actually our identity. Is that fair, Jason?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we did that in the last Champions League game in Monaco, where they conceded 2 goals at home in 4 or 5 successive home games, and we looked petrified of them. And Copenhagen are coming tomorrow. They lost the first game, I think 2-0 to Karabakh. They drew 2-2 with Leverkusen. They lost 4-2 to Dortmund. So they've got 1 point, and they've conceded at least 2 in every game, and they've conceded 8 goals. So there's no reason to sit there in fear of them. They should be fearing playing Tottenham, not the other way round.
Agree.
And whatever happens with the result, I want to go and see their goalkeeper man of the match. I want to see all the headlines being about how well their goalkeeper plays. And in amongst all our poor play at the moment, one little thing I'd say yesterday from yesterday, as much criticism as we can have with our forwards, I don't want to see Mickey van der Ven look like prime Fazio like he did yesterday, because he was poor yesterday. As poor as the goal was from Xavi and Spence, he had to be a damn sight stronger from that. And there was 2 or 3 other examples yesterday where Mickey sold hospital passes and dallied on the ball and things like that. And, that's way below the standards I want to see from Mickey. And particularly as he walks off the end, I want to see Mickey back to being the proper Mickey van der Ven tomorrow, or whenever the game is. But overall, mate, I want to come away from that stadium and look forward to going back there Saturday, not dreading going back there Saturday. That's it. Simple as that.
Does it already feel like, Jason, again, I know you're not one for sensationalism or massive headlines, but does it already feel like quite an important week ahead to home games?
No, it is, because, our away results have been excellent, absolutely superb.
Yeah, that happened. Yeah.
But our next away games, you look at the next 3 away games, is Arsenal, PSG and Newcastle. So, if you be realistic, do we think we're going to get 9 points from those? So if the away form does start to tip, and all 3 of those games are eminently losable, they wouldn't be a sacking offence if you lost all 3 of them. We wouldn't be sitting there saying he's got to go because he's lost to PSG. But if you're going to start losing away games, which you will do at some stage, we're not going to go unbeaten all season away from home, are we? Then you've got to see an upturn in home results, that's for sure. Otherwise, there will start to be pressure coming on him.
I mean, just everyone is aware, Copenhagen, they're not in tip-top shape. They've got a number of players that are currently on the sidelines: Thomas Delaney, Oliver Hoy, Magnus Mattsson, Rodrigo Huskas. Berger, Merling, all on the sidelines. You know, they are out to right the wrongs of their Champions League losses. They've had successive losses, having been beaten by Karabag and Borussia Dortmund for an incredible opening draw with Bayer Leverkusen. So it won't be an easy game, but it is an opportunity to hopefully just get some home form back. You know, I think we'll say this, that I don't know if you agree, boys. If you just see a few tweaks where you're seeing little bits of improvement, you know, hopefully that'll give us a lift, Jason, right? So that you come back on that point there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had fewer shots at goal and fewer shots on target than any team in the Champions League. We're 36 out of 36 on that stat.
That's crazy.
And again, you know, we can talk about how poor our front three is. You're telling me Karabag and Almaty and teams like that have got better front threes? Because who are they? If they had better front threes, they wouldn't be playing for Almaty and Paphos and Karabag. They'd be in Europe in one of the better leagues. So, you know, no, we're not Kane, Elise and Luis Diaz, but at home we should be better than Paphos and Almaty and Karabag.
Bearing in mind, 3 of our front 4 have already got Champions League experience with PSG, Juventus, Ajax, obviously Leipzig.
Yeah, I mean, just on Copenhagen, to not even put more pressure on with regards to them, they have never beaten an English team away from home in any competition.
Sorry, my camera's died. Give me a sec.
No problem, George. And they boast, just everyone's aware out there, Karabag, they boast just 2 wins from their last 21 away games in the Champions League, losing 15 of them. So there's absolutely no excuse why Tottenham, being at home, with even the squad they've got, with injuries that we've got, there should be no reason why in this game we will not be going there for 3 points and hopefully setting us up, of course, for that game against Manchester United on the Saturday where, already they are big games. I mean, look, they're all big games in the Premier League. I mean, again, when you look at that league table there, I mean, that's the reality of that at the moment that, you know, like we keep on saying, a couple of wins, you know, takes you towards the top. You lose a couple of games and you can see that even with us ending the weekend on 17 points, you know, there's a 6-point gap between 5th to Fulham in 14th. So it just shows you really, Jason, doesn't it, that the table could look so different in a space of a couple of weeks. That's why, again, I don't keep referring to the table. I don't think it's irrelevant at the moment, Jason.
Of course it is, because if we beat Man United Saturday lunchtime, we go second. I think we go second, don't we, if we beat Man United Saturday lunchtime? Yeah. There you go.
But then you also know the consequence. If we don't beat Man United, we could drop, I think, to what, 11th, I think, in the table?
All the time, a win or a loss can move you up 3, 4, 5 places. It's irrelevant. You know, when you get to match day 22, 23 and you go up 1 place with a win or drop 1 place, then you get a much better perspective of where you genuinely are in the table. But, you know, let's be honest, if we beat Man United, none of us in any shape or form believe we're the second best team in the country, do we?
No. So let's say crucial period. And, you know, again, like we say, this period, like we know, with regards to October, November, December, I think we always say it does shape the season. So we'll see. Jace, thank you so much. George has gone for an absolute session there getting his camera set up to say our goodbyes. George, thank you so much. I mean, rallying cry, George. I know you'll be out there for these next few games. How important is it, do you think, for you, George, we see a reaction just to calm the mood down? Because I think already we can see we love our fan base that rightly the natives at the moment are a little bit restless. And you can understand why.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely important. We need to, it's more, I think the fans did a really good job in the concourse and stuff at the beginning of the match to try and drive the atmosphere and bring it back up. And I think, unfortunately, when the football's not as interesting to watch, let's just say, it brings the mood right down. So I think for me, again, it's not even necessarily specifically about tactics of this, that, and the other as well. It was the desire to chase Chelsea down, to win the ball back, like little things like that. We just didn't do. We did for maybe the first 5-10 minutes. Maybe losing Bovar didn't help, but you can't blame losing one player on the whole team stopping running at all. So I just want to see some of that fight back in them, quite simply, irrespective of who you're playing or this, that, and the other. I want these players to show that they deserve to be in the side and to give Thomas Frank a headache for future matches. And I think if you go into Tuesday, you get a big result. You get a nice win, clean sheet, whatever it is. You go into to Saturday, I think it's Saturday against United, with a little bit more momentum.
Yeah.
A team that we know we can beat before. We did the number on them. in Bilbao to win an incredible trophy. I think all of a sudden you're going into the international break with a little bit more of an uplift mood going into Arsenal away, which, look, we might not win. We probably won't win because they're playing incredibly well. But all these little results adding up to each other really help. And I think it's important for us to continue to try and get that atmosphere in the stadium, for then the players to give the performance back so that we can continue the atmosphere and just hopefully build up together. And I think, unfortunately, if one side drops, it kind of, the whole thing collapses. So hopefully the players can do it on the pitch, and I would love to see Spurs go and just smash Copenhagen on Tuesday and really just set the tone that no, what we've done so far is clearly not good enough. We're gonna come into this. We're gonna continue fighting.
Agree. G, you've been a superstar, and those who ask me where G is, it's been a lot of the season. We're trying to make it work in between a lot of home games and away games. Quite literally, Spurs have been playing every couple of days. So we are going to hopefully have G. I don't want to curse you by saying we're going to have G more on towards the second half of the season when we get knocked out of all these cups because we want to stay in them. So we will try and make the shows work with G. Maybe Sundays are the way to go, but we want it on more positive Saturdays. That's fair to say. George, thank you so much. Anything exciting come up, George, social media wise? You want to mention too? Anything exciting in the world of George at the moment?
I mean, to be honest, just carrying on trying to analyse what Spurs are doing, and I'm itching to release a cinematic, which unfortunately just doesn't happen when we lose because the mood drops massively. So hopefully we get a big win on Tuesday, and then hopefully you see a nice little mini cinematic on your screens.
I hope you won't be saying this, George, because I'm saying it's not you saying it. It's a pretty sad world when the lot down the road are copying one of the great Spurs, one of the Spurs content creators out there of a cinematic. They're having to go and check out what George is doing to go and put it on their own platform. Unbelievable. George, you've been a star. Jace, you've been a star. Mate. Jason won't remember. He's back with us after Man United on Saturday. So we need to see something against Man United next week because, again, 2 home games coming up. Need to see something going into another international break. We need to see something. Jace, you've been a star. Thank you so much. And like I say, I think guys out there will know it on this show. We don't like to be hyperbolic. We don't like to be sensationalists or, really go from one degree to another. We're with Thomas Frank. We want Thomas to improve what we're seeing right now. But we have to see it on the eye test. Forget the table. We need to see what's going on the field to give us confidence that we're heading in the right direction. Give us that identity. Give us that, hopefully, spirit that we can see changes are happening and the team is improving. From Jace, from George, from me, we've been the last one on Spurs. Thank you so much, as always, for your incredible support. And we're back with you very, very soon. Take care. And as always,